You ever look at world politics and just wonder how it doesn't completely fly off the rails? Well, it turns out there's actually an official rulebook, a kind of global operating system for how countries are supposed to talk to each other. And today, we're going to break it all down by looking at one really, really strange story. So let's dive right in with a real world story that totally puts these rules to the test. It's the very curious case of Argentina's embassy in Bangladesh.
Okay, take a look at this timeline. It starts out pretty normal, right? In 1972, Argentina and Bangladesh agree to establish diplomatic relations. 2 years later, in 74, Argentina opens up a physical embassy in Dhaka. But then, get this, just 4 years later, in 1978, Argentina's military government just shuts it down. The doors get locked, and they stay locked for an incredible 45 years, all the way until 2023.
And that brings us to the big puzzle we're going to solve today. How on earth can a country's official embassy just, vanish for nearly half a century and then pop back up again? Is that even allowed? Well, to answer that, we have to understand what the rules actually are. So let's back up and start with the absolute basics. Before we can figure out how an embassy closes, we need to be crystal clear on what diplomatic relations even means. At its heart, it's a formal agreement. It's like two countries giving each other an official handshake and saying, okay, we agree to keep an open and peaceful line of communication. And the key phrase here is mutual consent. Both sides have to agree to start the relationship, and, crucially, both sides have to agree to keep it going. And why is this so important? Well, because this framework is what lets countries work together on, everything from trade deals to climate change. It's how they negotiate when they disagree, and this is the big one, how they stop small misunderstandings from blowing up into major conflicts. It's basically the operating system for global peace. Now, this whole system doesn't just run on good vibes and hoping for the best. It runs on a very specific set of rules, a global rulebook that almost every single country on Earth has agreed to follow. And this is it, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, signed way back in 1961. This one document is the absolute bedrock of all modern diplomacy. You'd be hard-pressed to find a country that hasn't agreed to play by these rules. And we're not talking about a few vague suggestions here. Oh no, the convention has 53 specific articles, or rules, laying out the rights and responsibilities for pretty much everything you can think of. That level of detail is so important for making sure there are no misunderstandings. And these rules get incredibly specific. For instance, Article 4 lays out the whole formal process for getting your new ambassadors approved by the host country. Article 8 even gets into the nitty-gritty of what nationality the embassy staff can be. It literally covers everything. And it just keeps going. Article 12 says you can't just set up shop anywhere you want. You need the host country's permission. And Article 24 is so important, it makes an embassy's archives inviolable. That means they can't be searched or seized, ever. It's this incredibly detailed playbook that makes sure everyone, from the biggest superpower to the smallest nation, is on the same page. So that's the theory. But what does all this look like in the 21st century, when these rules are actually put into practice? Well, it looks like this. What you're seeing here are the brand new ambassadors from Greece, Lithuania, and Malawi, and they're formally presenting their credentials in Bangladesh just this year. Look at all the ceremony, the red carpet, the honor guard. This is not a casual business meeting. It is a carefully choreographed event, and every step is dictated by the rules of diplomacy. Yeah, that whole ceremony you just saw follows a very specific three-step dance laid out in the Vienna Convention. First, the sending state picks its ambassador. But that's not enough. Step 2, the receiving state has to formally agree to accept that person. And believe me, they can say no. Finally, the ambassador officially presents their credentials to the head of state. Only then, after all that, can their job actually begin. Okay, so now we know how missions start. Let's circle all the way back to our original puzzle. How in the world could Argentina's embassy just disappear for 45 years? Well, no surprise here, the rulebook has a section for that too. It's literally called the termination of a diplomatic mission. Because if you have rules for starting a relationship, you better believe you need rules for ending one, or even just pausing it. And here it is, the answer to our whole puzzle. The Vienna Convention states very clearly, the sending state may, at any time, recall its diplomatic mission. That's it. That means a country can close its embassy for any reason it wants, political, economic, you name it. And the host country's only job is to make sure the diplomats can leave safely. So Argentina was simply exercising its right when it closed the embassy back in '78, just like it was exercising its right to reopen it 45 years later. It's all in the rulebook. The fact that this 45-year gap was handled so smoothly really shows you how powerful and important these formal rules still are. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? In a world of instant messages and video calls, how long will these old-school diplomatic traditions stick around? That rulebook from 1961 is still running the show today, but for how much longer? Definitely something to think about.